Let's load up for this session. Welcome everybody. It's 7:30 for me here in Belgium. So we're kicking off with this session and today I'm talking about making songs your own, and in this case I thought why not show these principles that I have shown before in sessions before uh, on a specific song. How can you apply this? How to keep control, how to eventually get to expressing yourself. Um, don't worry if you missed the previous sessions. This session will illustrate what we discussed, but um, you won't get lost if you did not follow the session. It's practical enough. Um, as a first time, this session is going to be recorded. I'm checking if that is the case. Yes, the recording is running, and it will be offered later on together with my slide deck. So that's a first. Let's see how that goes. No extra stress. All right. This session, I decided to take a hold of the song House of the Rising Sun because it is a song that lends itself to a lot of fun stuff where you can start out at a gradual pace and not too much complexity, but the song keeps on giving. You can keep developing it while you already have it in your repertoire. And that's something I always like to see when people learn songs. First, make sure you can get a song under your belt quickly and to get it out there, get it on stage, perform it live, or just have fun playing with it at home. But that you immediately have control of a certain level of the song, no matter how simple it is. And then as you play it, as you practice it, you can develop some sections. The other cool thing about the song is its structure is relatively simple, which makes it easier to retain control, to know where I am in the song, and to be exercising this improvisation of now I'm going to do this, and now I'll grab this card out of my pocket and see what we can do while still knowing exactly where you are in the song. So, I mentioned two important things already. One, take control. Two, express yourself. And I think taking control is paramount to the process of being able to express yourself. You cannot fully express yourself if you you don't control the song. If you need to keep on reading a song from its paper, um, it is hard to be in control, and the paper is controlling you. So I think it's important that no matter at which point you are in the song or a live gig, that you always retain control, because when you are in control, you get to decide what to do on that moment. This is a universal method. We'll discuss it on a certain song, but you can apply it to any song you want. Some flavors of chords will be different, and not all styles will work out just as well, but you'll see it's a universal principle. Know where you are, as I mentioned, is paramount here. And knowing where you are in the song is being a master of its structure. Knowing that you are in the intro, when the verse starts, when the chorus starts, is, of course, a no brainer. It sounds simple. Not every song is that simple for that matter. It could be long with different sections, and sometimes you need to be able to adopt in the middle of a song when you're performing it live. You're having a little blackout or something happens, and you need to continue a bit just instrumentally and make the situation get normal again and play on. Or even as I encountered once that you're playing a smooth song and people started dancing and you need to adopt on the fly to a kind of vibe and a feel and a rhythm that people can dance on. You can only do that if you are in control. If you are in control, you can always drop back to its basics. A song consists of a few basic things. It is a certain chord sequence, a chord progression, um, And no matter how complex or simple your pattern is, or how many lead IDs that you cultivated, or fancy stuff, finger picking you tried out, you can always bring it down back to its core elements, being a chord progression. And I thought I had, had the slide here, and it's rhythm, because rhythm is king. That's something I'd like to include in every session. If you can keep your rhythm, no matter how fast or slow it is, and no matter how basic your chord progression is, you will still be performing this song. This is the basic layer, and you can having control means being able to drop back to it and build upon it at your control in the middle of a song. This development goes in three different stages, as you like. The first one is a fully scripted one where you decide, I'll do the intro this long, I will do the theme 2 times or 4 times, I will play it in this way, then I'll switch to the verse, I play this in this fashion, and you script it all out, but you know when to start it, how to play it, and if you need to sing it, you actually know the lyrics a bit as well. If that is not right the case, it's not bad to um, vocalize yourself with hums or lahs or whatever, or keep it aside for a while, because I think that you need to be able to control your guitar and your rhythm first for at least a good level before you can actually drop into singing. More on that later. But that can be the fixed script. Next stage in control is being able to intervene, being able to change chords within your song in the middle of a song. And this is something you can practice at home. To be able to do this, you need to have control. You need to be exactly where you are, as I mentioned. Because you know this is where the next section will start, and you need to decide 2 things. Where will I change chords, and what shall I do when I change chords? 2 things you need to think of while playing, and perhaps also singing at the same time and keeping your rhythm. Let's hope you have some brain power left to do that all at once. But you can train this. You can train yourself in challenging mid-song, changing directions, changing tempo, changing strumming pattern, or even the style how you sing it. Of course, stage 3 is where you can do this on the fly. That you could be triggered. I know somebody could say, now you go slow, and you know, okay, this is a spot where I can do this, and you can drop your tempo or play a different style. Or, and this is when it really comes in handy when something happens on stage. Perhaps you have a string breakage, or you lose a sound in your monitor. You're being disrupted by something. Something is disrupting your act. It could be noise in the audience. Something is happening, and you need to keep the song going because all the other people are still watching you, and they don't like performances that are being cut off all at once because something happened. You need to be able to keep this flow going, draw back to your basic rhythm, and decide what to do. Will you play this section instrumentally and wait till the fuss is over and try to talk yourself out of it? Every situation is different, but it is by having this control that you can do all these things live. Of course, we're not only playing live here today. This is exactly the control you also need to build upon layer in your song, because sometimes at a certain point you you want to throw in certain things. It could be certain chord variations or fancy strummings, or you decide to do a percussive hit in your song. The further you are in these levels, the smoother this will go. And it will also mean that you are in very strong control, strong mastership of where am I in this song and how is my rhythm going. So, step 1 is step away from this sheet where your song is written on. I know many of us all use these papers with lyrics written on them, little chords on top, and that's how we all learn songs. But now I need you to step away from that. Before, at least, you saw like Neo in the Matrix, you actually see the Matrix. Oh, here's my Rhythm is King slide. Nice. So, Rhythm is King. What that see the Matrix means, we'll see that later. But first, for this particular song, what is the basic layer? You need to learn how to count. This song, it is no regular 4/4, it's a 6/8 actually. And it's one and a, two and a, one and a, two and a. So it's a one and a, two and a, one and a, two and a, three and a. This should be a mantra. This is your locomotive going through the song. One and a, two and a, three and a, four and a, one and a, two and a, three and a, four and a. You can do one, two, three, four, or you can do one and two, and just those two, because you'll be doing a chord on each one and the two and the one and the two and the. And so on. So this should be a mantra for you, because everything that you will do is based on this, at least for this. So I said, see the matrix. Now that you know what this rhythm is and how your mantra should be followed, you dropped your paper, you know how to count, you know how to feel it. Now you have to see the song in front of you, because its structure is made of a few blocks, and it's quite symmetrical when it comes to the blocks and its durations. Because when you see it on paper, you tend to follow it, and you don't really see how long each chord is played, and you try to follow the lyrics, but lyrics aren't in control here, while in the song they never are, and on the paper they always are in control, because the chords are written where they should follow on the lyrics. In many cases that isn't even written down correctly. So I propose you do this. You should be seeing this well at home. This is what House of the Rising Sun really looks like. Without lyrics, just a structure. Each block has the same length, and you can see that every verse in the song, it doesn't really have a chorus, which makes it easy. It's all verses, and they all have this structure. A minor, C, D, F, A minor, C, and then the double E, and E again, and A minor, C, D, F, and that second part is different again. A minor, E, A minor, E. So you see, if you write down a part of a song, like it's a verse, and you also do this with choruses and bridges in this fashion, you will easily spot the structure of the song on how long to play. And if you write it down like this, and you apply what I just said in the one and the two and the one and the two, and each of these blocks is a one and the two and the. Now I'm not going into deep in how you actually have to play this song, because Justin has an excellent lesson on this song. But I just want to emphasize the fact that you follow this mantra and you follow a structure like this. You have to see this matrix, and if you don't know the lyrics by this, that's okay. This is more important than lyrics right now. If you want to find ways to express yourself in making a song your own, you can try to figure out what happens in this song, what happens in this structure. And for House of the Rising Sun, set aside the lyrics, but pure musically, for me, and that's subjective, for me, it does this. It always starts out confident. It is an A minor chord, but it has some stature, and it always starts out quite confident. And the C also. A minor resembles C a lot. For me, A minor and C, it's almost the same thing, but a different flavor. And the D, and even that F, it's okay, but it's still confident, but a bit sour already. From the D, especially if you throw in that little hammer, it starts to get sour a bit. But the subject in question grabs confidence again. C, but then something dramatic happens. E. We're in these gray blocks now. E. And this is how the story of a verse starts out for everything in House of the Rising Star. And you will start to see a recurring pattern on a micro and a macro and a micro scale. So Dutch, English. If we move on, we see a repetition of the first part. First and third line here is the same thing. You should see that pattern. So once again, confident. And then the sour F again. It's a bit on edge. Start out confident, but the drama. And there's a repetition there. A minor, E, A minor, E. It's never ending, I wrote. This block, this whole block of 16 blocks is being repeated all the way song, which is also never ending on a larger scale. While the never ending part is also brought down the scale to this last line. And there's a little story in each verse. And if you would once again grab the lyrics and put it on top, then you'll see every verse is a little story on its own. You really have to understand and feel this story and imagine yourself being in the subject's, in the singer's place, bringing this story, feeling like that. And when I take apart a song, I like to figure out what's the musical story in such a song, what does the verse do, what does the chorus do? Because in many cases, a verse can be the counterpart to a chorus, or the other way around. Like Pixies, they like to turn it around. Many songs are smooth verses and energetic choruses. Pixies like to turn it around and make smooth, soft choruses and more powerful verses. It's also a way to handle your story. So try to understand this story and the feeling, because this is, for me, the underlying emotion and vibe that inspires me to make decisions within the song, within each block even. So in Justin's lesson, he will explain you how to do that. It is how the original, at least what we call the original by the Animals, which isn't really the original, but that's a different discussion. It is how the original is played. But it could be that you have some issues with that. Start out. Take it down a notch if you want, and it could be single strums on the one. It's okay, because this song actually lends itself to something like that. And you can actually practice your the broken chord, the more arpeggiated. You can practice that doing the single strums or trying to do them really slow. As long as you keep that rhythm steady. As I said, rhythm is king. No matter what you do with this song, how you want to make your own version, you need to have a certain bass rhythm. It can change somewhere in the song, but the change should be systematic. It should be following kind of a matter on an idea, or should be at least very clear that you do, but your rhythm can be wobbly. It should always be confident, and it should be a clear choice, the rhythm. So try to figure out what your strumming could be. It could start out really simple like that, but it could evolve. Remember that no matter what you pick out, what you work on, always try to master a simple thing first and build upon that. Don't try to aim too high right away. Tommy Emmanuel has a very swinging version that I like to base my own version on a bit, but I wasn't able to do that when I started out. I even had issues with playing the regular F chord while doing that. And you might have spotted that for this song, I like to do this thumb over and even drop the thumb there. It's the same thing as playing an F like this, different fingers, and Jimi Hendrix was a big fan of that because it enables me to lift my middle finger and do that little trick, which we'll see later on, which is more advanced already. Or you can play, as I see it's already mentioned in the chat as well, the mini F, of course, which you can also find in Justin's website. So make sure you check out that if you have issues. I just did an excellent session on bar chords, as I say so myself, and later on, Richard is having a club on the two most important bar chord shapes. So if your chord work, especially your bar chords, need some work, check out the club site, justinguitar.com/clubs, and enroll for Richard's session as well, because these sessions, they support each other, of course. And Richard is a great teacher. When it comes to technique, he's a better teacher than I am. So check it out. So I showed you the strum on the one, and I also showed you the arpeggiated version that Justin will teach you if you do not master that already. And of course, try these different flavors, as I said. When playing a song, you have different options. You want to express yourself, you can play the song slowly. Playing it slow gives you more room to add certain notes, to add a certain emphasis, to time your vocals differently, and to bring out some of those nuances. And playing it faster can really bring some swing. Experiment with that. Actually, every song has room to do that. As soon as you bring down the song to its main components and you are able to mix and match rhythms with your chord structure, every song can be up tempo, every song can be slow, even every song can be made into a punk song if you want to. It's all possible. So, what about vocals? I also picked this song because it has something special going on when it comes to vocals, and it can confuse you when you're trying to learn to sing over it, because you don't start to sing on the one. I'm gonna jump to that right away. The key. You don't start to sing on the one. And I'll show you how you can drop into that. And when you start to sing, of course, I shouldn't forget, first step is consider what key you will be singing in. What I was playing right now was the original key. I tend to move up my capo even a little bit because I like to sing it a bit higher. And that's why capo is such an instrumental tool. Instrumental, great word. You can also try to put this song in a different key if that works better for you. Perhaps there are some people not so fluent with the F chord, bar chords already, but they can do some power chords. Then this version of the song can work for them. And then a B, If that works for you, why not? If the lower pitch better works for you, why not? If that gives you a better range to then start sliding with your capo, why not? When you start singing, you need to find the best spot to sing it where your voice shines. When it's too high, it's hard to reach. When it's too low, it's hard to embed energy in it, to project energy while singing. So you'll need to find its optimal range, and a combination of transposing a song by changing its chords, following some basic rules, or sliding up and down the capo, or the combination of those two will help you finding that optimal range for you to sing it in. That is the most important thing when you sing. When it's in your optimal range, it will be easier to keep singing on tune. It will be the nicest thing to listen to, and also it will be the optimal spot for you to express yourself. So, as I said, the singing is something special. The singing the song is something special because you start to sing on a different spot than you think. Here are the lines. There is a house in New Orleans. This is how the song goes. You see, I'm not sure if that's very clear at home, but there's a part in yellow. Is in the house is in yellow because this is actually where you do your strum. This is where you do your musical count. There is a house. See, there is. I do on the is. I do my strum. A house. C. There A C. So I do my strum on the yellow thing. Why you would suspect, if you didn't hear that already, or you haven't trained your ears that well already, that you start to strum on the there. There is a house. You might feel that is strange, and it could work for you. And if you decide to do your own version, I am not your boss. I am not paying you. But I would suggest to keep note of this, that you actually sing and then play it. So you actually need to start singing before that. And that's why I said get a hold of the structure of the song first, and where you land your lyrics will come easier than if you try to sing it right away. This counts for many songs, by the way. Um, I usually give you advice to students to make sure that they got their rhythm solid going before singing over it. It's just too much at once. You can't expect from yourself to do that. Um, if you've been playing for several years and you've been learning a lot of songs, then you probably developed the skill to read the chords and follow lyrics right away. And even so, usually that's for songs where you already know the lyrics by heart. So, as I said, you could you could play with the rhythm of a song to give yourself space to sing and to decide where shall I sing long or short notes. And once again, I think this version of the song, or at least this song, lends itself to do that. And I noticed that I have control over the song because during when live sessions, when I play this live on a gig, I always play with the timings. I usually sing the first verse kind of like the original is, and then I like to play with how long I make syllables. My rhythm is always okay, at least I say so. But I like to play with how to sing it, and this is an excellent practice to check out how well your control is going, to push yourself in finding the edge between freewheeling and doing some scripted stuff. When I'm singing this song, there is. I moved up my capo, by the way. There is a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun. So I slowed it down a bit, and I immediately find a lot of space to work it. And I don't have to catch any breath. I have all the time to focus on the stability of my voice because I should be standing up and singing. That's my rule number one. But it helps me doing this more slowly. But I always, it all already inspires me to give it more of a dramatic feel and to emphasize this high and low thing going on. So changing the tempo just a bit, changing the vibe a bit already makes me go another way. Because in the second verse I could be my mother, a bit more parlando, a bit more telling the story because I'm describing my family. She was a tailor. She sewn my new blue jean. Look what I did there. I transported a word to a different, even to a different line. I even took apart and waited with it to create some tension, and I had to put some words together in a more short session and then cram that a bit, but it came out as a fluent sentence because I'm playing a slower version of this song. So see how it gives yourself the freedom. You can slow down a song like this to find a space where you can be creative with your pacings and then speed it up a bit again later on to make it sound more natural, more fun to listen to, or bringing the cross that, whoa, this woman or man actually took control of this song and made something of his or her own of this. As I mentioned, the parlando thing, the song is really telling a story, and sometimes you can bring dynamic in your song, playing loud, soft, fast, slow, strumming patterns, but also with vocal styles. And this parlando thing can also be something that you're not really singing or you're playing the chords, but you're actually addressing your crowd and asking them something or telling them it's great to be here once again, stuff like that. They always love that. But you couldn't do that with your song as well, especially if it has more of a story element and to grab their attention. Because if you do this, I'm sure you'll see some heads turning again, putting the attention on you again. But when playing at home, it's a great exercise to mix parlando, this spoken word, with the actual singing. It's also great, don't call it a cheat, it's a great trick to tackle parts that you think are very hard to you, perhaps some notes that might be too long or too hard to reach. You can capture them with stuff like changing the vocal melody a bit, doing the parlando trick. This is the spot where you actually use your control and use your freedom to make it easier for you because it fits you better. It doesn't mean it's less cool or less beautiful. It's more you, and that's what it's all about. And that's when you're expressing yourself. So it's a great combination of fixing something that's really hard for you right now, it can develop later, and make it your own. So don't write it off as a cheat. Try to develop this thing that you make, but try to build on it later. Try to make that even better what you just did there. Perhaps it feels like a fix right now. It could actually grow into something cool if you have the character to build upon that once again, of course. Something I also mentioned, the percussive hits. This song really tends, it really asks for it. When you can throw in something percussive, it could be on your body, but just the percussive hit on your string is great to introduce that extra virtual instrument in your gig. If you can play guitar and sing and actually bring that bit of expressive feel, percussive feel, you're actually doing three things at once because you're also being a bit of a drummer, a bit of emphasis on that rhythm. Works for every song, by the way. If you're all alone on a stage bringing songs, Uh, People want to be entertained. That's for everything. It's also the case if you're with a band, of course. People want to be entertained. Music is means to do that, but the goal is entertainment. So if you can enrich your song with whatever you have to offer, some percussive hits could be a trick. And Justin also has a great lesson on that, on how to do that. If you think that that shouldn't be hard, if you are already strumming and you are following your one and the two and the, it's just a matter of picking that right moment on that count and doing that certain thing, this percussive string hit, for example, which comprises of hitting and muting in a short amount of time, then you're already there. If you are master of your mantra, of this rhythm, this isn't a completely new thing to learn. It's just putting the emphasis on a certain thing that you're already doing. So layer upon layer. See what I mean? It's a layer of lacquer, layer of paint over the other, and it gets better and better and better and better. I come to my favorite trick, and perhaps a bit of the secret of my style is playing with chord decorations, which is applicable to every song you can imagine, and it enriches every song you can imagine, and it can make you sound very expensive, or how you always do the same thing, kinda. But the thing is, you're doing the same trick, but you're always doing it in a different fashion. And the better you get at this, the more control and immediate decisions you have. At a certain point, you will be doing random stuff with your fingers that aren't even controlled by your conscious brain. I'll show you what I mean with this. This is the one and the two and the. It is here again, and it is because the bottom part, once again, the yellow isn't coming through that well, but the second one here is in a different color, and that's because I want you to play a chord, one and the two and the. So one and the two and the. That's an A minor. But you could do a variation in that second one. One and then a variation. So that's an A minor to an A minor 7. And it's a different A minor 7 because it's more clear for you to hear. Two times an A minor. It's just, remember that we're playing that same block structure. Remember that same block structure, but now we're throwing some of these, and don't panic about all these names, because these names are harder to remember than the thing that you are actually doing. Imagine you doing one and the two and the on an A minor chord, but you switch that two and the with an A minor 7. It means adding a pinky on the third. Can you see that? Yeah, it's the third fret on the top E string. See what I did there? It brings texture to your strumming. One and the two and then you have the C. You could do a C add 9, which is actually a regular C, and then that same pinky does the same third fret top string thing. So you have A minor, and then A minor 7, and then C, and C add 9 is the pinky thing again. This little thing here, top E string, thin string, third fret, pinky finger, C add 9, and you are playing 4 chords in the same space where you were playing 2 chords, but you keep control because you will always remember in which of these white or gray blocks you are. We were doing A minor and C, but instead of one and the two and the, I changed flavor in the middle of the block. A minor 7, C, C at 9. And D, you can do the same thing with sus chord. I even do four things, and that's the subconscious thing that I mean. If you do this a lot, you will do this without consciously knowing it. D sus4, and you can do this with several chords, and it's a great place to start with doing one change in this block, but always remembering which block am I in, because at a certain point those chords that I'm introducing here, these variations, you don't consider them different chords, you consider them flavors of the same chord. I've been over that in some of the previous sessions. But I'm also, when you're in an A minor block, you can play all the flavors of A minor. If you're in a C block, you can play all the flavors of a C chord. All flavors, four flavors of the same C chord. So that's why you have to keep control. That's why you always need to know, I'm in that block. If you know in which of these basic chords blocks you are at that given time, you have the freedom to move around in that block and play even random flavors, and it will always sound great. And your ear will match an experience, and you will store this was a cool experience or not. For C, oh, I thought that the last one was the coolest, and let's do. You can even put down your finger, lift it, put down your finger, lift it again, and create texture within each of these blocks, but you're still in that block. Remember that paper where your chords were. Remember you playing the chords that were on that paper. You were limited to the chords that were on that paper. You weren't. You're not actually. You're not even sure how much time you have in this block to apply flavors, or are flavors even a thing? So at this point, we're actually not missing that paper. Agree? I hope you do. So as I said, try to lift a finger and put it on again. And this is your first step to create finger picking melodies, because when you do them as strums, a lightly trained ear will start to hear the different flavors, but you will hear them a lot better if you start to finger pick. So I'm already playing a bit with the timings of my pickings there. Autopilot, I'm sorry. But by playing an A minor and then introducing the flavor and C again, I even throw in two flavors there. You hear the difference a lot better than when strumming. You get a melodic quality within your chord blocks. In my head, I am still going through A minor, C, D, and F. I'm seeing just those four blocks. Those four blocks are easy for me to follow, and that's all I need to know. From there on, it's my unconscious brain that takes over. This takes some practice. Don't expect from yourself to be able to do this at the first try. But try to apply this to different songs. This same trick applies to different songs, all different songs. And you can make random finger picking patterns for songs, and it will sound great. And some will not sound great, but first you do the scripted level. Remember, scripted. If I lift that finger, put it there, and then I apply that flavor, that works good. You can script your blocks if you want to. But later on, these things will become more subconscious, and at a certain point you will let your brain do the decisions while you keep control. I am the captain. I am deciding which block we are in right now, while my first mate, which is my subconscious brain, is doing the complex micro tasks of applying these flavors. Be the captain. Always be the captain. Don't become the micromanager. You are the captain of your song. when you do finger picking, you're creating a certain melody, which is also, it's kind of a fork in your road. Um, you can go finger picking, but when it comes to melody, you can also evolve to some more kind of lead lines, some more explicit melodies. Finger picking is more of a flow of notes, while you can go for specifically chosen notes, or after a while, even doing that on autopilot. And first step could be using the chord tones. You could play a chord, but picking out random or not random strings. So you're already playing the tones that are in your chord. But remember, you're the captain. You know, I'm in block A minor now. Now I'm going to C. And I'm going to D. And I'm going to F. It is more of a bit more explicit melody, and I chose my strings kind of random, but kind of consciously. And that's the first step to actually playing lead, because what notes you're playing here isn't that important. It is you trying some random things and picking up, this was a nice vibe, this tells a story, this amounts to the slide way back where I said I start confident, but then it's a bit sour, then I start confident again, but it's depressing, confident again, and then at the end we see it's a never-ending pattern, a depressing, never-ending pattern, because that is what the song is. If you would grab its lyrics, you see that it is depressing until the end. And this is how the song goes, both musically and lyrically. And this is what you try to convey in your lead melody as well. You can do that with those decorations as well. Not playing some notes and just playing one chord, or two strings of those chords just once can be a statement as well. You don't need to fill up and stuff it with notes. Make it count, just as the silences in between. And if you want to continue on that, I suggest you check out Justin's chord explorers, shape explorers. Uh, Great lesson material. Use the search function on the website. Find these chord explorer lessons, which are about finding flavors within a certain chord, like I've just shown you. All right, let's see. I'm going to do a quick Q&A check. I have a few more things to tell you, and then I'll do another Q&A check. So let's see what's going on. Why? I see one question there. Why use a capo and not standard open chords? Of course, I mentioned in the beginning of my set, you might have missed it, when I play, and I play for you guys, I put my capo on the second fret because I tune my guitar down, a whole note being two steps. So if I play an A minor like this, it will sound the same as a regular open chord for you. When playing and singing, using a capo is one of the tools you use. Find an optimal key. I find the original key like this, not the regular A minor key, a bit too low. So I move it up. It suits my voice better. I can better express myself with it. Um, but it's all up to you. If you think playing with a capo is confusing for you right now, leave it and play the regular chords. If you are adventurous and you want to, you just want to change the vibe of the song by moving up its pitch, its key, why not use a capo? Or if you're even more brave, transposing a song which actually is a process of changing the key of a song by manually changing the chords and moving them up or down all the same amount of steps. You could move every chord up 5 steps, and then you have transposed the whole song 5 steps up, which would mean 5 frets up, which would mean moving your capo 5 steps. Could I demo play the song? Well, the thing is, I play the song in different ways. My favorite way to play this could be something like this. So the original song, Justin has a lesson about this. It's a lesson on the website, How's the Rising Sun, on JustinGuitar.com. If you want a demo on the original, check out that lesson. It's no use that I'll show that again. What I like to do with this song is start out really slow, really dramatically, but rather close to the original, so people recognize it and they think, oh, okay, that's How the Rising Sun. I know this song. I know this song. I give them the time to recognize it. So I start out, sometimes even slower. And the intro, you could choose to do the whole verse as an intro or just the second part. And then I leave a dramatic pause, making sure everybody's looking. And then I go into the more Tommy Emmanuel swingy mood, and it's a great dynamic going from this slow dramatic thing to and the singing starts. There is a house in New Orleans, they call the rising sun. And then I go on. So that's how I usually play the song. I use dynamic both in tempo and making an own intro out of a regular verse, because the song is always the same verse. It has no real chorus. And the original song is, the intro has the same vibe as the rest of the song, and I thought this could use a little more dynamic. And the surprise of people, they think, oh, we're in for a slower song, and then bam, smack in the face, up tempo guys, and finger picking stuff. And sometimes I decide in the middle of the song, I'll do an instrumental part. I do that when I'm feeling confident, when things are feeling great, when my hands aren't cold, and I can do the. And just something more finger picky, more complex, focused on the melody that I'm doing with my guitar. But I decide in the middle of the song, will I do this or not? I haven't decided that in the beginning of the song. Because I have control, I have the freedom of doing that, and this is a part of my self-expression. I decide if I throw in this section or not. Somebody asks, when I do the finger lift thing, creating chord variations, do I try to mimic the original song, or is it just adding my own feel to it? Most of all, it's adding my own feel to it, but it's a good question because it can actually be one of the ways to incorporate a bit of the vocal melody in this. If you like finger picked instrumental versions of songs where the guitar also plays the vocal line, but you think it's a bit hard at first, you could go and search some of the points in the melody that you can simulate by doing this. And sometimes it is the case, because you will notice many songs use chords like A minor, C, D, F, G, E minor, or E major. And there are several of these flavors that use the same fingers in the same spots, which means they all fit that key, which means if they fit a key, They could be part of a scale that can be using over this song, which means the vocal melody is suspected to use that same scale, which means, yeah, there is a lot of overlap there. There is a lot of overlap in these seemingly random decorations, which are actually, in many cases, either chord tones, which are part of the scale, or regular scale tones. So it is no coincidence if you tend to discover by accident, it's a happy accident and it's actually no accident, if you find some of the vocal melodies within these chord variations. And it can be your first step in creating some kind of hybrid of decorated chord structure with a vocal melody. Could be your first very basic vocal ID, vocal quality within your song. And as I said, you might be on stage performing. Your main goal is entertainment. Music is the means to get there. This could be one of the extra instruments that you bring. So imagine you playing guitar, um, adding some percussive hits. You also being a drummer. But if you're not confident about your singing, but you think, I like to work on my guitar playing and I can throw in some of that extra melody line intertwined with my chord work, and it could resemble some kind of role that a vocal has, then that's your third instrument. So you're there playing something instrumental but doing three things. Imagine you doing that. That's cool. What is the cover on my guitar for? Great question. This is a device that helps block feedback. This is an electroacoustic guitar. It's plugged in, but stage volumes can be loud and feedback can occur. I'm making noise, it comes through speakers, the noise gets back to the guitar, to its vibrating top. Once again, it's being amplified again. You create a loop. You can do this with a microphone as well. When you hear it screech, that's you speaking through the microphone. It's coming out of the speakers. The sound of the speakers going back into the microphone, and it's kind of a short circuit, but for sound, this helps to block that. This helps the feedback that electroacoustic guitars often experience. This helps to block that. If the song is fingerpicked, how do I come up with a strumming pattern that sounds close to the song, or vice versa? Well, everything that I have shown you is based upon the 1 and the 2 and the 6/8 written in the song has. Everything that I've shown you is built upon that. There is no theory in how to resemble a vibe. Um, if you want to make a strum, experiment by building upon it, by mimicking this 1 and the 2 and the was strumming. 1 and the 2 and the. This is your primer. The 1 and the 2 and this is your primer, and from there on you start experimenting. This uses the primer. It introduces an extra strum, and in the end, in the last section, I went all out. I did a this is a never-ending drama thing that once again I use that pattern to get inspired and I got the feeling of the blocks of the A minor eating. The never-ending drama that's being told in this song. I use that as an inspiration in the last section of this strumming pattern. And does it resemble the original? I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much for me anymore. It resembles the vibe that the song was transporting. This never-ending drama. I translated it in my strumming patterning as well. So at a certain point, you'll start with your primer that I've shown you, and you can add in complexity, double time certain sections, leave out certain hit, introduce one, as long as you feel like this your primer is still being respected enough. But at a certain point, you'll be in the fork. Will I be trying to fit the original as much as possible, or is my creative muscle trying to take some control here? Another option is trying to find some lead ideas. Sometimes for that, first you still need to know where you are exactly, even more so because when playing some separate notes, it's easy to get lost. But it could be that switching shapes is actually an answer to make it easier. While the shapes that I've been showing you earlier are the typical open shapes, perhaps switching to bar shapes, and once again, they are your friend, they open up options like this. And if you have issues with your F, you could go for a certain kind of bar, a power chord version if you want to. If you've been dabbling around with some rock, with some power chords, and you can actually play the F here. Well, guitar is a bit out of tune, but it could help you. It could help you play the song like this. It's the same thing, but the song was in A minor. The song was in A minor, which means we probably could play an A minor pentatonic, which is one of the first scale that Justin teaches you because it's very approachable and it is so very much used in different songs. So another great excuse to use the A minor pentatonic, to practice it, and of course to practically apply it to something real, to a song that you're working on. One of my many advices: if you practice something, make the practice work for songs that you're working on. You can try to play a scale shape all over the neck and not even use it once in a song, then why have you been doing it? Then you made the means to an end a goal, and that's not the idea. So, what I was saying, A minor, it could be your pathway to throw in some lead ideas. So remember the primer of the chords, those four chords. You can do something with that. You can mix your chord strum. It can be your time check. By counting the one and playing a strum 1, and trying to find space to draw in some lead notes in between, you can start mixing. Then it's the idea that you start introducing techniques as well. Now I just did 3 slides and I played either chord tones or the ones in this pentatonic scale, A minor pentatonic, and then I start to combine. This could take a bit of work, and a lot of that work is in that first level of scripted, because this is not the first time I actually, a bit earlier today, I tried this principle somewhere. Um, but you have to script it in the beginning. But these little blues licks that I just shown you are random ideas I came up within the time span of 2 minutes, and I applied them here right away, and I remembered them, and I thought, oh yeah, I did something with a slide. It was a repeating melody, or I went down the scale ID and did something random there. All little blues licks. So you can start to use the scale that fits a certain song to introduce those things, but still play chord shapes as well. I was playing a regular C shape here, and playing in between the strings in a random order is more than enough, or just playing two notes. That was just me playing 3 chords, and after each chord, 2 notes of the notes that are in that chord, and it already has some kind of melodic idea. So if you know which key it is in, and you can apply either a minor pentatonic scale like I just did, and combine it with the chord tones, you have a lot of notes to work with. What I do a lot as well is starting to mix all these things up, strumming and picking during the same song. This, once again, it all boils down to taking control. Taking control and having control, knowing exactly where you are, means this is a spot where I can switch between strumming and fingerpicking. Like, it could be an intro, and then I know, oh, I'm going to the second part of that section. I know I can do that because it's not an awkward moment, and I still remember where I am. I might be picking, I might be strumming, but in my head I see this matrix that I've shown you. I don't see the paper with the chords on the seemingly random spots. I see this structure of songs, and I see myself, I don't know, with some kind of cursor moving through these blocks, and I know where I am, and it's my reference, and I know I'm somewhere in A minor territory now, and I know I can do finger picking, I know I can do strumming, I know I can actually do A minor pentatonic thing during the whole song because it actually fits the key, but it's certainly safe in the A minor thing. Remember the A minor thing? Oh yeah, that's where the subject was confident. And if you do, yeah, you're kind of confident. But you can also, if it's drama, you could do drama there. If it needs drama. So that's what I meant with, if you start out with your structure, but you also start to map what kind of vibes are being transported, these vibes can inspire you if you start to do the little lead things there. Because I think playing lead melodies is the very most expressive thing you can do on a guitar, using techniques like bending and slides, stuff like that. It really makes guitar speak, and it can help you in bringing this emotion, this expression, if you don't want to sing in the song. Whatever you do, if you want to introduce this kind of stuff, start out very slow. Your rhythm is king. You might need to put up a very slow drum section, or very slow, very slow, very slow. I kind of lost the word there. Very slow drum section. Yeah, let we keep it at that. A metronome, of course. A metronome. Sorry, very slow metronome, or very slow drum rhythm, and keep on following it at that. You know that when it does it basic one hit, you play the full chord strum, for example. If you still want to, if you're the only musician on stage, you might want to actually do that, play those full strums on the counts, so people have their actual musical reference in structure. Because if you keep on noodling, and people, you might know which block you're in, but people in the audience won't. So you need to build in some musical references, and the ones and the playing a chord there is the best, most intuitive reference that you can create. So I said the A minor example. Um, when you're exploring shapes like that, it could help you to find more styles as well, because the path we were going now with these bar chords, which are very close to power chords, you could create a more heavy metal version of your song if you want to. See, sometimes other shapes will inspire you to take it to a different style. And this is what I meant with you could bring every song to a different style. And in many cases, it means bringing it down to its basics and then starting developing upon that yourself. All right. So I briefly touched it already with and showed you with the version that I play that you can play with speed, with power, with volume, with drama to express yourself. Expressing yourself isn't only lead playing, it there are many things to do that. And you need to explore what those can be. Um, for me, that's a lot of um, the vibe of my strumming pattern and in combination with my chord decorations. In the version that I played, you probably noticed that even though I'm doing a certain strumming pattern, I'm also finger picking. By this, I mean, you see, I'm doing a certain strumming pattern, but it provides a rhythmic layer underneath the finger picking I do while doing this strumming. I'm strumming and picking at once. This takes some time, but there's something I developed as well as my personal style going through this whole process that I showed you guys today. I started out simple as well. I started out with one kind of decoration on one chord, and I thought, oh, this is cool. This adds a little flavor to one boring chord. Oh, adding a different strumming here is cool as well. At a certain point, I start to combine those and build upon, build upon, build upon. That's what you do. Cool thing is you can apply this to many songs, which means you practice it a lot, which means it becomes second nature before you know it. Last thing to wrap up, because I'm going over my time as usual, because I always have so much to tell you, is that you can use the secondary dominant. Um, if you want to know more about this, once again, check out Justin's website, check out secondary dominance and what does it mean. Cutting some corners, it means you check out the chord, you consider that chord as a key, and in that key you go for the dominant chord being the fifth. By this I mean you recognize the white squares, and then you might have a different chord before it. You have an A minor, and then instead of going regularly to C, we could consider C as a key. And what is the fifth chord in this key? It's a G, which means that it's a jazzy trick. You can throw the fifth of that C before it. In this case, it's a G. Same thing before that D. Before that D, you could throw in the fifth of that D. If you would check out the key of D, and the fifth chord is an A. Let's throw it before that as well. And you see our little chord structure became a bit more complex. And it would result in something like, see what I did there? Um, Very briefly, I threw in those extra chords, and those aren't random. I could throw in one before the C. If we go to the key of C, go to the fifth chord of those diatonic chords in that key, which is a G, you can throw that in front. A minor, G, C, which can also help you to discover if you want to throw in some passing notes between chords, you can use the root notes of those chords. And then using A as a little platform to jump to D. As a whole, that's A minor, G, C, A, D. So that's more advanced stuff, but that's one of the many things, many tricks you can do to enrich your chord pattern as well. You could expand on your chords itself with the flavors and make them more complex. Or you can start to play with the rules of harmony, in which this is one of the most used, most obvious ones, most experimented with. There are a lot of more of those tricks with chord substitutions and stuff like that. I'm not going into that today, but it's just to give you a brief flavor of, is there more? Yes, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to build with your song, more layers of lacquer on that, more of that to come, which means and just proves that you can you should bring out your simple version of a song as soon as possible, and by doing that, by performing with it, by practicing it, you are making it your own in a technical fashion. But by doing that, you're also enabling yourself in finding ways to make it your own, to put in your own flavors. What do you like this and there, and what do you choose? And then the three levels of, it starts off scripted, but it ends up being me being the captain and my first mate doing all micro stuff that I'm not even aware of. So this is why you should learn the basic structure of a song first and then build upon it, instead of trying to learn every one of each single specific notes and trying to work that out. That songs weren't written like that. They might sound like that right now, but they weren't written like that. Like, and one of the best examples, I already gave it in some of the other sessions, is Dust in the Wind, which might sound like a complicated strumming pattern, picking pattern, but it's actually two chords, being C major and A minor, and different flavors applied. Imagine being just in one of those two blocks, in being either a C block or an A minor block. That's all C chord. That's all C block. Then he moves to A minor. It's all A minor. So in my head, I saw a block C and I saw a block A minor. Of course, it wasn't random. This was completely scripted. But I was in C and I was in A. I can actually take this and make it my own. I can do random stuff with it. I'm in the C block, I'm in the A minor block. I apply some of the same flavors, but in different orders. It kind of sounds like the original, but it's already something else. It wasn't as good as the original because it was a random thing that I just did. But imagine trying some of these variations and landing on something your own. And this is how I often play variations of songs, and even this song, and sometimes even more complex finger picking patterns. But I'm still in a C block, I'm still in an A minor block. And the vibe and how smooth I'm playing that day often decides where it goes. So, to recap, if these things were interesting to you, go look for the lesson on How's the Rising Sun, the chord explorer lessons, the percussive hit thing, secondary dominance, and there's so much more to explore. And my next session will be a bit more coaching than this one. Once again, it's a recap of a session I already did on finding and setting your goals, long term, short term, setting your North Star, and what are the steps, the milestones to get there. Is this fixed? Does my path change along the way? Spoiler alert, it does. And how to work around that, deal with that. Finding your path isn't predetermined. You explore that yourself. We'll be doing that next time, same time, within 2 weeks. Check out the other clubs, of course. As I mentioned, Richard is doing one on bar chords. If you're still having issues with that, you should definitely check it out. But if they're just okay, check them out as well, because I'm sure Richard has some great tips on how to use them, how to check if your technique, posture, and all of that is all right. And it brings us to my final slide in my deck. If this session was valuable for you, I kindly ask you to consider a small donation, say $5, to keep these sessions alive. They are free for you. If you want to keep them free for you and everybody, consider this small donation, and there's no prize on an inspiration or stuff like that. So please consider that. Let's see if there's some more questions to wrap up. The questions I cannot or we don't have the time to finish, we'll be answering in the community.justinguitar.com. It's kind of like the old forum. There is a topic for each of these sessions dedicated to these sessions where you can come back to later on for the rest of your life to ask questions about these topics, and I will be there answering. I'm already there for 20 years, so I will be for the next 60 years perhaps. All right, I don't see many extra questions, so if something comes up, make sure to ask them there. And with that, I leave you for this session. I hope this was valuable. I wasn't selling all too much mumbo jumbo, and that you had some valuable things to get from this. Recording of this will be made available in the beginning of this week, and so will this slide deck will be made available. It will be searchable and findable on the website, and same thing on the community. With this, I say goodbye, good people of the world. Keep playing, keep practicing, and rhythm is king.